Ray from Dead Pixels Ghost Club, put out an interesting post just in relation to AI and kind of Hedera and all that kind of stuff. OpenAI, it's been very interesting recently. Like I get the sense that OpenAI and Microsoft are going to part ways eventually for various reasons. But to this, OpenAI published something relating to the Coalition of for Content Provenance and Authenticity. So this is about when you're scrolling through the internet or wherever you are, is the stuff I'm looking at generated by AI or not? And so these AI platforms having a shared responsibility and set standard to essentially make it clear whether something was AI generated or not, or altered in some fashion or whatever. So this goes right at the heart of so many things we've talked about on Hedera with, Equity Lab, with Reuters, even, Canon with Hashgraph technology embedded in certain models of their camera that are used by reporters to authenticate images to the other sides of this, which is not just proving something is created by AI, but proving something is created by humans. So lots happening in the Hashgraph front. So you see OpenAI tweet about this and you're kind of like, well, I mean, this is a natural step here. But, Ray from Dead Pixels Ghost Club, puts it really simply. It's like, listen, this is, a good opportunity potentially for Hedera, this ecosystem to, extend an olive branch out to this Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity. Maybe there are already conversations happening or whatever, but I don't know. This feels like it fits right in the wheelhouse for Hedera. So that was very interesting to see. Something else, a little bit of a breaking news item today to get things started off. Red Swan. We've been talking about Red Swan quite a bit. Red Swan is purportedly going to be tokenizing billions of dollars of real estate assets on Hedera. They just got a FINRA membership. And what that means is essentially FINRA oversees the activities of its members to ensure compliance with legal and ethical standards. It's kind of like a non-government regulatory body for, investment products and stuff like that. So they administer exams and qualifications for individuals and members. They develop rules for the members, all these different types of things. So essentially FINRA is like a stamp of approval for firms like Red Swan that are now, not just issuing traditional securities, but actually tokenizing securities such as real estate on DLTs or blockchains or hash graphs. And so I don't know how many, I know that DLA Piper and Toko are fully kind of buttoned up in the UAE and, so it's very interesting. I don't know if I've seen another project kind of get a FINRA membership. So I don't know. It's definitely of note. Also of note, to be honest, I was going to give this episode a different title. I mean, I wanted to talk a little bit about burnout in the industry and mental health and stuff like that. But basically, a lot of times when Hedera hits major milestones, I kind of title the show about that. Obviously, the big milestone this week, 50 billion transactions, which is fantastic. And I mean, there's a big note on that. Like I work at Hgraph, which is, a mirror node provider for Hedera. We provide data to the Hedera ecosystem, and about 99% of those transactions are Atma.io, right? I mean, that's the the big scheme of it. And a lot of what we'll say maybe FUD or something like that is, I think a fair criticism maybe, but kind of not, which is like, well, most of those 50 billion transactions are from like two use cases, right? AdStacks back in the day and Atma.io, right? And most of them are HCS transactions, low revenue generating transactions. But, and so that's the argument is like, well, these are all subsidized, right? Like the majority of Hedera's transactions are subsidized by the HBAR Foundation. But my rebuttal to that most of the time is, if another network could subsidize, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 transactions per second submitted by third parties, right? Paid transactions. If they could subsidize those, they would. We would see all these other networks at these transaction levels. So that's my rebuttal to it essentially, is like, well, you know, we can process those things. I think that it is definitely, there's a side to that coin, which is it's unfortunate that Atma remains a subsidized use case. I think that's definitely like an awkward point for a lot of the community. But when you really look at things, it has proven Hedera can work at scale, which is so important. And also too, real quick, there's a great post on the Hedera subreddit. Lehman Baird, you know, there was that meme video. I talked about this when I had Oliver, the head of social media at Hedera, when I had him on the show for episode 90 something. You know, he mentioned that he actually, you know, filmed this video, edited it with Lehman, and this is basically Lehman crossing off milestones on, I guess, his office wall or whatever. But what's interesting here is, you know, when he crossed off the 10 billion mark, that was, you know, May 28th last year. When he crossed off the $20 billion mark, that was September last year. And now when he's crossed off the $50 billion mark, that is May this year. So effectively, and again, I know there's definitely like clarifications for the types of transactions that are submitted. But the bottom line is Hedera's done 5x in transaction volume in a year, right? Like that's literally what this is. We've gone from 10 billion transactions to 50 billion transactions in 1 year. So if you extrapolate from that and you say, well, geez, if you know, Hedera does another 10x in transaction volume this year, May onward, you know, is that off the table? I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like Hedera's done a 10x in transaction volume before. So we'll have to see. But, you know, we'll have to see. Something else we'll have to see about that's like a really weird, interesting thing that has kind of picked up some steam in the Hedera community is it was regarding Apple. Now, I want to be careful how I present this because, you know, what people are excited about right now and what people have discovered is if you go on your Apple keyboard, and kind of how this works is like if you go on your Apple keyboard or your Mac keyboard, you know, you click or you type, you know, a letter and you hold it, it'll pull up the accented versions of those letters and you can kind of choose different types of characters. And recently, and I say recently, I think like pretty much yesterday, somebody in the Hedera community who we talk about quite a bit, Edward Chomsky, posts, anyone notice when you long press H on iOS, you get, you know, the Hedera H? And this is true. Like if I go to reply to this, I'm just doing this real time on the video recording. If I do a lowercase h and hold, oh, it doesn't pop up on the video recording. But anyways, you get the lowercase h, and then if you do an uppercase H and you click and hold, you know, you get the uppercase H with the 2 bars. So that's been exciting for people. And to be honest, I didn't really notice, that Apple had any of those kind of characters in their keyboard. That I made a custom shortcut for myself to like throw in those things in my Apple devices. Did my own kind of shortcut. And so it's kind of weird. Like it's the first time I saw it that we have kind of these Hedera logos or Hedera symbols that are, you know, built into the Apple keyboard now. And it's not like it was just, this wasn't something that was added like yesterday, right? This was something that was added to the Apple keyboard in September last year. So these characters were added to the keyboard, and this was iOS 17. So here's the list. You know, there's a big list of characters that were added. So it's cool. And so I think that, you know, people go, well, you know, if Apple were to join the governing council, you know, they would want to have these characters on here or, you know, whatever. And there's kind of two sides to this. So the big news item here is, wow, we got the Hedera logos on the Apple keyboard. Amazing. So what does it actually mean? And I think everyone's kind of two minds about it. The I think that the rational mind that, to be honest, doesn't serve us well too often in crypto, but the rational mind says, well, these are standard, Unicode characters that are in the library of Unicode characters, like all sorts of different dots and slashes and other accented letters and different things. So it's not like Hedera invented these symbols. These are, existing symbols in the, language. So it's not like these are Hedera related symbols. These are symbols that Hedera has adopted, very similar to X, right? The X logo, previously the artist formerly known as Twitter, the X logo is also a Unicode character, right? So that X that you see, you can type that with your keyboard as well. I actually set up a keyboard shortcut for myself for that, So these are just standard characters. Maybe it's some kind of trend with branding these days where people are making their company logos ASCII characters or Unicode characters. Who knows? But the rational side of my brain goes, these were just standard Unicode characters added to the Apple and Mac OS keyboards, September last year. So that's kind of what the rational brain says. Then there's the other side of my brain that's like, and also too, another point to that is, Elon Musk, we kind of meme on the fact that he tweeted out, the Hedera H, and everyone loves that. But we know that also stands for Planck's constant, which is what he was referring to. So it's easy to get very, very excited about this stuff. But again, going down that path and getting excited about it, it's kind of like, what exactly does this mean? You start to really think, like, we've explored this idea on the show before. Is Apple aware of Hedera? Is Apple aware of Hashgraph? Has there been any communication? And, we're not really clear on that. And where I kind of find my mind in the middle of this on both sides is similarly to how I think about the concept of, what if X company joins the governing council, or what if Y company joins the governing council? I just kind of remind myself that if this network is really successful, if the governance model continues to expand, if this is truly a 100-year company, a 100-year DLT, most likely, the governing council will cycle through the entire, Fortune 100, within that time. So it's not really a question of if Apple will join the governing council. It's a question of when will Apple join the governing council, and will Apple stay in business long enough to join the governing council? So that's kind of that. And so you talk about a keyboard. I think that for me, it's the net positive is it does what it's intended to do. Apple builds in these new characters so people can communicate more efficiently. So, Apple's either knowingly or unknowingly has made it easier for HBARbarians to talk to each other. That's great. Apple has, again, knowingly or unknowingly contributed to the Hedera ecosystem. And I would say for a move like that, honorary HBARbarians until proven otherwise. And it is worth noting that their App Store practices may nullify that. So we'll leave that pending. We'll see what the community says. But I think if you're not excited about Apple and not kind of interested in those connections and stuff between Hedera, it's like definitely get interested about that stuff. I want to talk about Hedera's event in NYC in New York City. I don't know if anyone attended that event, but I might see some folks stop by the show a little later, so I'll bring them up to talk. But if you know anybody that went to the event in NYC that isn't tuning in, definitely have them stop by. Please take a minute now, share the show. The more the merrier. But this was pretty cool. So Hedera has a governing council meeting in New York happening, I believe, Friday. So people are coming out. The gang's out. There's photos being published of Jim from Acor, Rob Allen from Australian Payments Plus. We got HBAR Joe from Earthlings. We got Captain Brando. So we got some familiar faces. Also, longtime listener of the show, Tamara shared a post just about some of her experiences, but most interestingly, some photos of folks that were there. So, of course, we got Manson Lehman there. We've got the BankSocial team. We've got some panels. You can see Brady there from BonzoFinance, X Worlds. We've also got Hedera folks there. So definitely like a bit of a vibe in New York. And it feels like it's kind of just getting started, because the governing council meeting is, happening in a couple days. So I think that there's more to come. I'm going to definitely continue looking into it. The new Swirlds CEO, Eric Persini, also shared on LinkedIn some images. So yeah, it's pretty clear. The whole gang is out in New York right now. And it's just the beginning. So I'm looking forward to speaking to some folks from Hedera, New York. And even if we don't have some folks stop by today, definitely next week, I want to see if I can get some people on the show. But to be honest, the next week's episode is going to be kind of wacky. I'll share a bit why, but it's going to be a bit wacky next week. There's a video clip here too of I don't even need to play any audio, or maybe there is audio. I don't know. It's a very short clip. Let me see.
The order tonight is for me and Lehman to just say hello, and then we're going to turn it over to.
Okay, so it's Lehman and Mance talking about something. Mance looking sharp. Lehman's got the drip as usual. He's got the computer science vibe. Lehman's looking sharp as always. So yeah, Hedera, NYC. Everybody's out. Governing council meeting. I'm very interested to see what the minutes look like. Coinbase. This is another news item here that I want to just quickly touch on. Coinbase has added perpetual futures for HBAR. So this is a very exciting thing. I know there's a little bit of confusion in the community about, how this relates to DeFi or whatever. And, I think that it's very easy to get caught up in semantics. I think that a big flaw of the Hedera community sometimes is really focusing too much on the nuance and the semantics of stuff and everything like that. Because the reality is the whole crypto industry and this community included just moves so fast. People don't have time for a lot of that nuance. It really is about broad strokes and getting attention. And if you don't dive into it too deep and you kind of look and you go, well, perpetual futures on Coinbase, what does that mean? Is that DeFi? Does that help DeFi? Yeah, that definitely helps DeFi. Is it DeFi? No, it's Coinbase is a centralized exchange. So it's like, I think that the two are unfortunately conjoined still. So I think that this will have a big impact on DeFi. People being able to generate value on Coinbase by betting on or against HBAR, being able to utilize leverage like this just kind of gets things kind of rolling. And if you have people that are playing with HBAR in that fashion and they want to go deeper, it's like we have a robust DeFi ecosystem. So yes, I think that this definitely relates to DeFi. It doesn't have to be DeFi to relate, to DeFi. It's like, it depends on how far you want to go with that thinking too. But anyways, so what are perpetual futures really quick? Because this is very exciting. Coinbase, wow. But like, what exactly does it mean? Because I don't think that a lot of people in the Hedera community are, playing around with a lot of this stuff. So perpetual futures, you've probably heard about futures, right? Which are essentially just an agreement to like buy or sell a asset, for a predetermined price at a specific time in the future. So you have these different like futures in the markets. A perpetual future is the same thing, but basically you don't have an expiry date. So you can hold on to the contract essentially for as long as you like. So this adds to the flexibility and also the fact that these are 24/7 markets. So it's like the new, it's the new kind of, future, the perpetual future. And you can trade perpetual futures. You're speculating on the future price of a cryptocurrency without actually owning the asset, right? So it's basically saying like, I think that this asset's going to be this price at this time. You don't have to own the actual asset to do it, but this is essentially the very definition of leverage. And we talk about how cool this is. This is big news, but this is also, how people lose all their money in crypto. Like generally people lose all their money from scams. They lose their money from a lack of understanding. We recently saw someone that lost, I think it was like 100,000 HBAR doing a swap inside Hashpack just because they didn't know the difference between the old Dovu token and the new Dovu token, right? And some people might be listening and going, what is Dovu, right? What is the old one? What is the new one? I didn't know. And that's the problem, is a lack of knowledge or a lack of due diligence, causes this type of stuff. And how do you even do proper due diligence these days? So anyways, fair warning. This is how a lot of people lose money when they get into like leveraged type stuff like this and perpetual futures and everything like that. So should you use Coinbase perpetual futures? Only if you're ready to risk it all, folks. Only if you're ready to risk it all. Real quick too, we've got let's flip back to the DeFi aspects of the ecosystem. BonzoFinance. We had Brady and Garang on the show recently, did a big, long interview with them. Go listen to that. It's on YouTube and all sorts of different things. But their testnet is live, up and running. They mentioned that was a goal for them for May. So similar to the Saucer Swap launch, you can go onto BonzoFinance and play around, use the product. You can go to their Discord. There's like a faucet. You can get HBAR X, I think Sauce. There's I think 4 or 5 tokens you can get on the testnet. Go in and start doing borrowing and lending and just kind of see how it feels. It's similar to when Saucer Swap launched and you could just use the testnet DEX. I think that was really powerful and important for the Hedera community from like an education standpoint. And so I'm just on the testnet dashboard here now. And yeah, they got some pools here and you can connect your wallet and you can start playing around with some stuff. And yeah, BonzoFinance testnet live. And I know that we've got a few other borrowing and lending protocols, projects coming online soon. So Bonzo's one of the first, but I think that they're definitely leading in certain regards to kind of the education component of stuff, especially having a testnet environment. So that's really, really cool. If any of the other platforms have testnet environments, I'd be really interested to take a look at those as well. Saucer Swap published a big development update. I'm not going to go big into it. I just wanted to bring people's attention to it. Saucer Swap has a lot on their roadmap that they're going to be doing. And I think that there's going to be some substantial news and updates from Saucer Swap in the near future. And so it's kind of cool to see this stuff in action, right? So a bunch of different updates. Most notably, they're looking ahead to some other different, updates to the platform. And again, this is developer focused. So if you're a developer in the DeFi ecosystem on Hedera, check that out. Lots of interesting insights there. There was a Forbes article published as well that was kind of interesting that people were sharing that highlighted BankSocial in the form of a quote by John Wingate, who I've also had on the show recently. I think I had him stop by the show recently. I can't remember. But anyways, BankSocial and Metallicus are banking on blockchain in 2024. So this is basically an article highlighting a few different platforms on different networks that are, betting on banking. And John Wingate has a quote in here, and it says, "Our end goal is not to create the largest credit union ever invented with the DeFi Federal Credit Union, but rather to create a template where credit unions can easily participate in the Web3 ecosystem." So I think that was like, a good differentiator for BankSocial's initiatives. And it's funny because like it kind of shows how look at this I just got a pop up on this website. It's like 12 stocks to buy now with like a picture of Warren Buffett. What a nightmare. But anyways, it's like we're sharing this Forbes article, and this just kind of shows how wacky the press is, especially in the crypto space, which is like, you got the Forbes article, but last week we were literally like, burning Forbes because they published an article that was titled, "Good for Nothing Blockchains." And to be fair, Hedera wasn't included, which was, maybe a win, but the thing is like, it's so true that a lot of these, press outlets publish sometimes so much conflicting different things. One day there's, an article that's speaking favorably about blockchains and different stuff like that. And there's also an article that, literally, like, I think that drove down the price of crypto as a whole when that was published. So very interesting observation. Also, an update from Dovu. Dovu, I've had a few different conversations behind the scenes with Matt Smithies, who's the CTO of Dovu, and they're working on some really, really cool stuff. I got to have him on the show again soon, but they've got their new supplier dashboard in alpha now, which is really exciting. So anybody who's been keeping up with the Dovu story, I think this is a pretty significant milestone to check out. But for folks that are kind of out of the loop, essentially, Dovu is solving a problem where, we have this dream of, a bazillion dollar carbon offset market where everyone's kind of buying and selling these NFTs and everything like that. But like, where do you get all those carbon offsets, right? The reality is if you have a little family farm or a wildlife conservation thing or whatever it might be, if you have something like that and you'd like to make some money and issue credits, it's such a crazy process to do that. It's a long, expensive, crazy process to do that, which contributes to the lack of supply, right? We've heard Microsoft say that there isn't enough quality carbon offset credits in the world to offset their carbon output. So that's really wild. So Dovu essentially is leveraging AI and Hedera to make it super easy for those people to issue those carbon credits. So contributing to kind of like solving the supply issue. So that's really, really great. So shout out to Dovu. I think that is a contender for a major milestone in that project. And just a reminder too, this was awesome to see this published, but there is this photo of May, CEO of Hashpack. She's in the karate combat pit and she's ready to fight. And they have karate combat has the kind of like influencer fighting stuff. We remember that BitBoy fought and won in karate combat. There's a bunch of other like influencers. I think that literally at this one, also like Billy McFarland, like the guy who did Fire Festival, is also fighting. But that'll be May 30th at Consensus. Karate Combat will be there. And, a member of our community, May, CEO of Hashpack, will be fighting, fighting someone. It's going to be kind of surreal. Like when I think about that, I go back to 2021, the early days of the Hedera community, and I'm like, oh, okay. This is a pretty small community, and we don't, the one wallet we used kind of busted, and then now I flip forward to here, and it's like, oh, we're not only did we have karate combat now, but now it's like CEOs of companies that didn't exist before are fighting, in a ring. And it's like, so I think that it's folded in on itself so many times, so many wonderful ways. Shout out to May. Definitely placing my bets, not financial advice.